I'm not going to have a guest today because I want to talk to you. And I want to start out by talking about a few things. And you're going to hear me talking about some of these thought provoking questions from now through certainly the election in November. I'm not going to be talking politics because I don't know anything about politics, but I'm going to be talking about things that have to do with your life and your culture, the culture that you live in, the world you live in every day. If you don't watch Dr. Phil Primetime, please start. You guys probably know I've started a new network called Merit Street Media. And if you're not watching Merit Street Media, I'm going to just do a shameless plug here and tell you I want you to start. If you don't know where to find it, then go to meritstreetmedia.com. First thing you're going to see when the homepage comes up is Channel Finder. Because if you don't know how to find it, it's going to say, okay, put in your zip code. And you just enter your zip code and hit enter. And it's going to list every way you can watch Merit Street Media wherever you live. It might be on DirecTV or Dish or Samsung or a channel there that you can watch if you don't have any of those things. And there's an app that you can download for free called Merit Plus. You can just go to the App Store, Google Play, Android, whatever kind of phone or computer you have, you can just download it. You just click as soon as you do, and it says, here's what's live, or you can click on Dr. Phil Primetime. So it's really easy. And I'm trying to get the word out because it's going great. And people are starting to spread the word because I'm talking about things other people aren't talking about. And you're looking at the homepage right now if you're watching this. If you're not, I'm just describing it. But you can see there it says start watching. You just click on that, ask you to put in your zip code, and there you go. Because I'm talking about what other people on television aren't talking about. I'm still dealing with guests. I'm still answering questions. I'm still trying to give people, real answers to real questions. Now, here's what I want to do to make you start thinking today. Let's talk about some of the headlines. I just went through a lot of the news sites today, and I just pulled some of these things down. I want to talk about headlines because, and I'm not talking about them for the content, just for context, just for the kind of values about what's happening in our world today. Okay? The point I'm making, I'm going to get to real quick, and I'm looking at what's happening around us. Now, let's go through a few of them. First, war. War is all over the place. We have a lot of unrest in this world, and people are saying we are on the verge of World War III. Now, you can say, well, I look around my world, I don't see anybody fighting. Well, we're in a global economy these days. We're in a global world where things that happen in China, in Taiwan, in Israel, in Ukraine, in Russia impact us here because we are in a global economy, a global world where things that happen there impact things that happen here. So we've got war in Israel. We've got war in Ukraine. We have war threatened between China and Taiwan. So that's one thing that jumps out at us when we look around. It's everywhere. In the UK, they're cracking down on free speech on the internet because they're taking down a lot of hate speech. They're taking down a lot of things that they say kids shouldn't be reading. Obviously, the Olympics just ended, and so there was a lot of talk about the Olympics. A lot of that was positive, I was glad to see, but there were a lot of people complaining about the Olympics, that they weren't fair, that only rich countries could afford to have them. So they were complaining about that. Then there were a bunch of political headlines. They were saying Walz, who is Kamala Harris's pick for VP, stolen valor, saying he lied about being in war and that he was not consistent with the 7 values that he should be consistent with for the Army: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And then there are headlines about the Trump campaign, that Iran has hacked into the Trump campaign. Then it jumped back over to Harris, that Harris was actually part of a coup, that she didn't get this nomination that she's sure to be awarded at the upcoming convention fairly, that she was part of a coup to oust President Biden. That kind of raises the question that I talk about in my new book, We've Got Issues. I talk about the 10 principles for a healthy society. And number 3 is don't reward bad behavior or support conduct that you don't want more of. Don't reward bad behavior or support conduct you don't want. So if she got this unfairly or part of a coup of ousting him, are you rewarding bad behavior? Trump has gotten upset, started calling people names and all again. He kind of laid off that for a while. Headlines in there of him going back, making fun of walls. I mean, is that bad behavior? Are we rewarding that kind of behavior? Those things really jumped out at me. And then there's one that really, really got my attention. This was on a site that I don't read often. The article was just posted somewhere. And the name of the article was What's Behind the Risk-Averse Approach Toward Love and Family. Now, the article was interesting and it was well written. It comes from a periodical called Spectator. I think it's the Spectator World is what it's called. And it was talking about the fact that young people today, kids, are much less risk takers. A quarter of all 40-year-olds are not married, and that those that are have children that, well, they have less children, even if they are married, that they have less children, and that the children that are growing up today just take less risk. They start driving later, they start dating later, they start having sex later, they start a lot of things later. You may think, well, some of that's good, some of that's bad. It talked about these 40-year-olds. They call them go-bag girls, red pill, millennial avoiders, and all. And what caught my eye about that is something that I see in the headlines a lot. And it makes me wonder. I always say we talk about young people as though we have nothing to do with who they are or how they turned out. Now, what do I mean by that? If we see these kids that are spoiled, we see these young people that are behaving a way we don't want them to behave. Well, we write on the slate of who they are. Do we not have a lot to do with who they are, who they turned out to be, how they behave, what they're doing? Of course we do. We shape young people. And I want to talk about the whole generation of young people right now that are behaving so fearfully. Are we scaring them into that? Are we talking about one crisis after another to the point that we have these young people so scared about life that they're becoming pessimistic?